Hey Stitchers, it's Amani from Min Amani Designs, and I am going to attempt to show you how I would stitch the Damask Rose motif. So today we're going to use two colors. I'm going to be using embroidery floss, but you can use Pearl Cotton 8, and I'll show you how I would stitch and my viewpoint on the stitching strategy. I want to preface this by saying this is how I would stitch it. There are different ways to stitch it, and this is my personal preference. I also want to say that one of my personal preferences is that all the stitches on the front go the same direction. Again, not everyone stitches that way, and that's not wrong. It's just my personal preference. So join me as I attempt to show you how I stitch this motif. Okay, let's start by taking a look at the motif and how we would want to stitch this. So again, I'm going to use two colors, not three. So the rose itself will all be one color, and then the outline of the rose will be another color. I like to start in the middle of patterns. So again, for the sake of this video, since the pattern is just one motif, we're going to start in the center. So another thing I should say too, for me, and again, this is my personal preference, I like to have my stitches in the back either go vertically or horizontally. I typically don't like to do diagonal stitches, but again, that is a personal preference. I do break those rules from time to time. It's just kind of what I try to, how I try to envision my stitching. So if I start from the middle, obviously dead center in the middle, there is no stitch. So I'll start right up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the bottom stitch from the left to the right. And then I'm actually going to cross this over, going from the top left to the bottom right. Then I'm going to jump up right here to start stitching. Now in the back, the way that's going to look, this is going to go horizontally. This is going to be vertical. Now, once I get up here, I am going to go line by line, and I'm actually going to be crossing my stitches by each line. Well, I shouldn't say by each, I should say by the first few lines. So the first one, I will be crossing it over and completing the X. Then I'm going to go up to the second line. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stitch half, half, and then cross it over. Do that when I get to the third line. Now, when I get over here, as you see, it's connected to this next petal. This is going to be where I'm going to want to stitch next. So I'm actually going to do half stitches on this line, do half stitches on this line, cross this over, do half stitches here, and then go back to complete. Why do I do that? Because I will end up right here at the end and can start stitching this petal. So this one I will stitch and I will cross over, and I'll do that all the way until the end, where I'll then jump over here. So follow along with me as I stitch this. If you have any questions, of course, leave questions in the comments below. Now that we have gotten down the strategy for the petals, the outside border is where we're going to focus. This is where it gets a little trickier, but again, this is how I stitch it. You might have a different way of stitching it, and that's perfectly okay. What I would do here is I would likely start right here, which is right above the first petal that we did. And I would start from bottom left to right, do that half stitch, and then actually cross it over and complete the stitch. Go up here, go from the top right to the bottom left, and then cross it over from the top left to the bottom right. And then I would take it up here. I would do a half stitch from the bottom left to the top right across these 4 stitches, and then I would come back to complete it. Now, when I complete the X, the last stitch will be right up here at the top of that stitch. What I will then do from here is I will jump from here to here. Again, my line in the back is going to be, it's going to be horizontal. So for me, that's perfectly okay. And then from here, I will start my half stitches. I will bring it back and cross, and then I'll be right here. So that puts me at a dilemma. Where do I go from here? What I typically will do for a stitch like this is I will actually turn over my project and run my thread through the back so that I start here and then I can start stitching. So then from here, I would go from the top right to the bottom left. Then I would go from the bottom right to the top left and bring it down here. For this, I will start with the half stitch here, then a half stitch here, and then I would actually take it up here. So I would be crossing up 2 squares. And then I would cross this here, take it up here, and cross the full X. Now, I'm going to end here, and my next stitch needs to be here. So I'm actually going to show you this when I do the stitch, but what I will typically do, and let me see if I can demo it here, but what I would typically do is put the stitch between the thread. It's a little hard to explain until I actually show it to you.